Thursday night, the Improv for the Show and Tell Showcase. Episode 1, Vacation. Please welcome to the stage your host for the evening, the sexy, the wonderful, it is Pat Longstreth.
It feels great having everybody out at this show tonight on a Thursday of all nights. So thank you, everyone. Oh, look, we have a microphone. Look at that. So some of you may be wondering what the heck this is. It's basically like a show and tell for adults. So we'll see how it goes. This is the first one. So some of you may be thinking, what's this all about? Why are we here? Who is this guy? Why is this speaker not on? Bluetooth always takes an extra second. Okay, so your burning questions will all be answered through the course of the show. But my name is Pat Longstreth. I'm your host, and I've put together an amazing lineup of storytellers tonight. We've got Julia Young, we've got Jinhee Susie Rand, we've got Chris Coronado, we've got Amy Page Condon, we've got Lillian Grant Baptiste, we've got Ruby Madaroli, and we've got Pat Gunn, Sister Pat, in the house. Now, we also have live improv illustration by Liv Bishop, so stick around. In the second half of the show, you'll see her illustrating some of the stories. So when I was putting this together, I asked myself, do we need a theme? And the answer was yes, because I wanted each storyteller to have some guidelines and some inspiration. But I had a lot of different ideas swirling around in my head, and eventually I settled on vacation. Because, you know, I thought that would, everyone has strong thoughts about their vacations, either their past vacations or their strong desires for their upcoming vacations. We all have photos and memorabilia that we can call upon to trigger memories, so I thought it'd be a good topic for our storytellers to show something and tell their story at the same time. So vacation means different things to different people, obviously. And so we have to ask ourselves, you know, what do we mean when we talk about vacation? It's not just simply travel, it's escaping from the daily life. For some people that could mean taking your boat in the backyard in your pool with your dog watching, a very humble vacation. Other people need to spend billions of dollars and impress everyone else on earth just to take a vacation. Now, I did a little research on vacations for you guys, and I learned that Ralph Waldo Emerson was not a fan of vacation. He was a philosopher and a poet, and he famously said, "Travel is a fool's paradise. I pack my trunk, embrace my friends, embark on the sea, and at last wake up in Naples. And there beside me is the stern fact, the sad self, unrelenting, identical, that I fled from." But other people have a different view. You know, St. Augustine, the theologian, said, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page."
Great. There we go.
Now, unfortunately, not all of us get to take vacations. Some of us have to work. But no matter where you sit on the leisure to lack of leisure spectrum, one thing is certain, we're all thinking about and obsessing over our next vacation. And tonight, we all get to take a little ride with each of our storytellers. That's right, we are all taking a vacation. Let me bring to the stage our first storyteller, Julia Young. Come on up, Julia. Julia is a stand-up comedian around, you may have seen her around town. She's also my former roommate via Craigslist from like 10 years ago. And we're still on speaking terms. So,
Great.
yeah. So here's your clicker.
Sweet.
And here's your microphone. Take it away.
If ever there were two things to make you feel powerful in a room, a microphone and a clicker, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good tonight. So my vacation, I found myself recently down in Tampa, where people weren't wearing clothes and there weren't any tan lines. Yep, I found myself at a nudist resort of sorts. It was more like a community. The circumstances surrounding this was fairly interesting. I went with a fellow girlfriend, 2 other female comedians, and like right here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, so don't move.
Woo! Right there is good.
Limited here, okay. No, I'm just kidding. I found myself in Tampa where people were nude and there weren't tan lines, okay? The circumstances surrounding that was that it was an all-inclusive, all-expenses-paid vacation, paid by an older man. His name was Richard. And I'm not an escort, okay? I just happened to find myself under these circumstances where I willingly participated, okay? This was not against my will. I went this was one of the shots of one of the resorts. I ended up bouncing between 2 nudist resorts for 4 days. And can you guys picture, like, being in a resort where everyone's naked is one thing, but then you get into a car naked and travel on the road where everyone else is wearing clothes. And on roads, what do we have? Stoplights. Okay, so now we're being stopped, and I'm just looking over. Of course, there's trucks, there's small cars, praying no one looks over in the car next to us. And we're in a small car, and seeing like 4 naked people. And I mean naked, okay? I did have shoes on. But that was it. That was it. I was not even wearing my dignity. I had left that at home. But the reasoning for me doing this trip, me and my 2 girlfriends, is that during the pandemic I gained a little weight, so I wanted to gain my confidence back, and I figured what better way than to throw myself in a sea of naked people and get my confidence that way. So on day 2, this is my girlfriend and I. We're naked. Secretly taking photos. By the way, cameras are not allowed at these establishments. So we decided day 1 to play some volleyball, okay? Now, mind you, most of the people doing these sorts of experiments, these neighborhoods living there, they are 60 and up. It's not me. They are 60 and up-year-olds, and we've got all different body types. There's definitely not like one, there aren't like a lot of hotties. It's not all models. It's very real people like you and you and you and me. And but most of them, like I said, are 60 and up-year-olds doing this. The next day we decided to play some volleyball, pool volleyball, naked pool volleyball. And that's pretty much what it looked like. I thought this would be great, okay? This is where I get my confidence back, okay? Naked pool volleyball with a bunch of 65-year-olds. I was very wrong, okay? My confidence was probably at here. It was very quickly taken down to here. And no, it's okay, it's okay. In the end, I won, but it was getting there, okay? So me and my one girlfriend, I'm 32, she's 23. We walk over to this pool to play pool volleyball, and they have us all get in line around a pool, okay? It reminded me of 4th grade dodgeball, okay? It brought back that intense fear of like, are you gonna be picked? Are you gonna be picked last? Remember all of those thoughts that ran through your mind? Sorry if it was traumatic for some of you guys. But that same feeling happened to me just the other day at age 32, naked with a bunch of strangers, okay? I thought, this is a shoo-in, I'll be picked first, okay? I'm the only one who like hasn't had a hip replacement surgery yet. So I thought, this is great. They start picking people, their friends, their buddies, Randy, Tammy, Todd. Me and my girlfriend, we ended up being picked last, okay? It was a team full of these people, and we were picked second to last. We weren't last, but the lady next to us, she was about 85 years old. She rolled up, and she had 2 medical alert bracelets on, 1 on each wrist, okay? I'm pretty sure she showed up in a wheelchair. I don't think she should be playing pool volleyball. Luckily, we were picked ahead of her, though. So, you know, whew, dodged that one. But I did end up playing. I forgot sunblock, okay? Yes, this was very, very bad news for parts of you that have never seen the sun. And I mean all of those parts that have never seen the sun. That day, I stayed outside playing volleyball. It was a tournament, okay? So I was out there, and they made it very clear. Like, once you sign in, you have to finish the tournament. Like, they weren't letting us leave. So a couple hours we're out there. And luckily, like I said, I wasn't picked last, so we're in the pool now, and I'm trying to get my feel for things. And I am just contemplating, what am I doing? Why am I here? And the game starts, and you know, I fumble a couple of balls. The ones above the water, anyway. You couldn't see the ones under the water, trust me. So I decided to get a little competitive. I'm a little salty, okay, that I was picked last. They actually asked us if we had any experience. And I'm like, well, like, I'm literally half of your age. But even knowing that information, they still picked us last, okay? It was just mind-boggling what happened. So this is just a reflection of me thinking about why I'm there. And my confidence level is still not quite where I wanted it to be at this place. So we're playing a couple of rounds of this volleyball, and I decided to get competitive. I'm going to teach them a lesson for picking me last, okay? I get competitive. So now I've got the swing of things. I know how to serve the ball. And now I'm like spiking in their face. I'm like, eat it, Grandpa. And I'm talking some smack. You guys got cement on your shoes. What's going on here? Some of them didn't like it. But during the course of these couple of hours, we did develop some spectators, okay? We had spectators watching the tournament. And I don't think they normally had spectators. I think it was maybe like an influx of younger people being exposed to the community. I don't know. But it ended up being a really good time. I made a lot of friends. My team won, okay? Yeah, winners. This is what a winner looks like, okay? Sunburnt. The only thing that did not win were my tatas, okay? They came out very badly. It was not a good look. Now, people have asked me, you know, would you ever do this again? And I had a great time. I ended up going to another resort where it was some younger people. It was more of a swingers nudist thing. And I saw some interesting things. I think we're all over 21, but if you can imagine it, I saw it for free, okay? I cannot get those images out of my head. The things older people will do in public at these places is astonishing, okay? Okay, I didn't have to pay a ticket to this show. I just sat back in the hot tub, and it was a paid vacation. But you know, I don't know if I do this again. It was pretty insane, mainly because 2 weeks later, I am still feeling the effects of that sun on parts of my body that have never seen the sun. This is just part of it. Picture that in other places, okay? So I guess when people ask if I'll do this again, my response is that my skin is peeling, and I don't know if I'll go back yet. I guess I'll have to decide after my new nipples grow in. But this has been my very interesting vacation in Tampa. If you guys want to know further information, we can have a more discreet conversation about that. But yeah, or if you're interested on going on an all-inclusive paid vacation yourself, I can hook you up with old Dick. I mean Richard, my bad. He will give you the hookup. But thanks for coming out tonight and supporting a great cause, guys.
Fantastic. Next up we have Jinhee Susie Rand. Jinhee is a actress and a former theater director, founder of the Muse Arts Warehouse. Anybody been to the Muse Arts Warehouse? Back in the day, it was an institution. And she's here tonight, back in the bright lights with all of us. So give her a big round of applause. And, her husband Mark is in the front row here. So.
Am I in the light?
You are in the light.
Beautiful in the
Can you speak into that right there?
Yes.
Can you give it a test? You can hold it if
Can
you
you
want to.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Let's do it. Actually, one sec, guys. Lean this a little.
I do stay mostly clothed through most of this. Mostly. Now there are decisions made when you're on the road. I in no way endorse the decisions we made on this particular road trip. Well, a few, perhaps. In 2017, we were planning the road trip of a lifetime. We had been planning it for over half a year, which is a long time for us because I'd been battling advanced stage lung cancer for about 4 years at that point. And that was a really long time to plan ahead. The plan was beautiful. To drive cross country from Savannah to Altadena, California for my father-in-law's 90th birthday, then travel to see the Great Salt Lake, and then the incredible Mount Rushmore, and then on to Cottage Grove, Minnesota, to share in Callie and the nephew Connor's beautiful October wedding. And of course, back home again with stops in Chicago and Nashville. So we were all set. The day before we were leaving, Mark was called into Human Resources for a meeting where he was told that his position had been eliminated. Yeah. "35 years. After a few deep breaths and a lot of tears, we decided a few things. We were going on this motherfucking road trip. We're not going to tell anybody what happened until we see them face to face, and we are going to take a friend. Meet Benedict Pumpkin Patch. There would be much crying and grimacing on this trip, and we may need a more chipper chap to pose for the pictures. Our first stop was in Jackson, Mississippi, where we were treated to gumbo so deep, so dark, so delicious. Our server just happened to be wearing a t-shirt that said Benedict lately, so we kind of figured we were on the right track. Our next stop was Dallas, where we took in an indie horror film at the Texas Theater. The movie house where Lee Harvey Oswald hid after the assassination is now an indie art house. Benedict chatted with David Lynch and checked out paintings of Joe Jodorowsky. And then finally, family, Cloudcroft, New Mexico. We shared our sad story, had a good meal, enjoyed good company, good scenery, and then we were quickly on the road again. Before you knew it, we were in sunny Altadena, California with the birthday boy. Aww. Our time in Altadena and Los Angeles was fabulous. Everybody got caught up. Benedict's learned about Trader Joe's pumpkin bars. Brother Pat asked us if we had ever heard of a musical called Hamilton. And then he sent us to go see it. We saw Friends at a Twin Peaks pop-up in Hollywood Boulevard. And then we celebrated the man of the hour, Noyes Patrick Rand, 90 years old, the rock and the foundation. The kids were there, the grandkids, the great-grandkids. There was a gorgeous cake. We were all so happy and proud to be there. Next stop, Salt Lake City. We loaded up the car in Benedict and we headed toward Utah with a new wind in our sail. There were bigger things going on in the world. The Me Too movement was taking flight. Victims were being heard. Vegas was still haunted by the mass shooting that had just happened a few weeks ago. We were unemployed. We were fighting cancer. Utah. What? Man, no. What's wrong with the car? The car is dead. Where the fuck are we? The tow truck driver explains that the closest town is Beaver. And he takes us to a little oasis in the middle of the highway with a garage, a motel, and a family restaurant called Family Restaurant. And that was where we stayed as we learned that our car was totaled, that Beaver had no taxi service, and that we needed to make some decisions. So after our second day of country fried chicken fried with gravy and polygamy beer, I didn't say they weren't funny in Beaver, Utah. We really needed to get home as quick as we could. But how? Pack up everything from the recently deceased Prius and fly? Or do we take the wee little bit from our wee little savings and buy a car and stay on the road? We decided to take a shuttle to the nearest used car dealer, 104 miles back in St. George. Soon we were in new to us new wheels and once again on the road, but a different route. But not before returning to our little oasis to pick up a souvenir. And off through Utah, Colorado, and Kansas, with stops in Kansas City, St. Louis, and Nashville. We made it to Atlanta just in time for Patch to catch the Great Pumpkin on TV. Thankfully, the next day we were home again into the loving arms of family, friends, and community. Now, Pat turned 90, and 91, and 92, and a half. And Connor and Callie got married. And Mark found another job, and I'm still here, fighting cancer. And Benedict Pumpkin Patch stayed with us through Halloween and well past Thanksgiving of 2017, which in pumpkin time is a mighty long time. Decisions are being made every day on the road and off. I don't endorse the ones we made. I do, however, fully endorse the person I make every single one of them with. And we still make motherfucking road trips.
Great story, Jinhee. Thank you. We have another game for you guys. Oh, sorry, we have a game. Let's try this again. With music, too. Oh, looks like we lost audio. Sorry. Well, let me just sing the song. It goes, do, 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 do. Where in the world is Pat? So, I need 2 teams of 2. So, that's right. We need some friggin' volunteers. So, no, sorry, Liv, not you. You're going to be involved later. Can't really see out there. Let me tell you, guys, there are prizes involved in this game. So, I see 2 people right there. Do the 2 of you want to come up and be a team? Lane and your friend? Yeah, okay. And I saw 2 hands in the back there. Jenna and Charlie. Charlie, right? Yeah. Come on up, come on up. Oh, wait, yeah, okay, so come on up. And since you 2 are up here first, you get to go first. You're team 1. So, We need to move some chairs on stage. How about you grab the microphone for a sec and introduce yourself to the audience and tell them where your last vacation was.
Oh shit.
There you go.
Oh shit.
Oh, sorry. You two can go sit in that couch over
Go
there
sit.
while you wait
Great.
for your turn.
I'm Jade McCully, and my last vacation was Asheville.
Jade.
Hey, I'm Lane, and it was Asheville, but that's kind of boring, so I was with you, so I'll say Zion National Park.
All right. So the way this game works is you have to guess where in the world I am. But we need one person to be a guesser, and the other person to be a clue master. It's kind of like that $64,000 pyramid game. I think that's the name of it. It's back before I was born. So who wants to be?
I'll be the guesser.
Okay.
You're the guesser? All right. Wait, sorry. What's your name?
Jade.
Jade. You get to sit right over there.
Oh.
Okay. And Lane, you get to sit right there.
Okay, I'm gonna do this.
Jane and Lane.
Jade and Lane.
Jade.
Yeah. So, you're going to see a picture of me, and we could turn the middle lights down just so they can see this a little better. And then, Lane, you're going to know the answer, because I'm going to give you a sheet of paper that's going to have all the answers on it.
Okay.
And then, Jade, you got to guess. But you guys only get a minute, so it's going to be a lightning round here, okay? And you just got to see how many you can get.
Is it like taboo?
Yeah, you can't say. So
That's
do
what we did when we were-
do you know the answer to this one, by the way? Paris. Right. So, Jane or Lane, the only thing you can't say is you can't tell your partner here, this is Paris, and then she goes, Paris. That would be breaking the rules. Okay? You have to say something like, this is a city. Yeah, you gotta say like taboo. Exactly.
Okay.
Like this is a city in France. That would be fine. Okay. Some of these are. There you go. Like the Champs-Élysées. We're the city of the Champs-Élysées. Now, some of these are cities, some of these are states, some of these are countries. You just gotta help her narrow it down.
I have
I'm
terrible
very
geography.
Okay. Would you like a microphone, or are you okay with that?
No.
You'll probably be alright with that. All right. So, let me get you the answer sheet.
Give it to me.
Study it for a moment if you'd like. Can you read it
Oh,
okay?
yeah, turn it.
You want to turn this
Is it going in order?
Yes. Yes. Don't show it to your partner.
Oh, shit! See, if I can't see that. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, just turn the chair a little more towards her. And you'll be good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's my
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Back down. We want to see the pictures here. All right. So, are you ready? Team one, are you ready?
I guess so.
Go.
If it happens here, it stays here.
Las Vegas.
Yeah. Oh, God, I really can't see because I don't have glasses. No, I really.
Yeah, Las Vegas, I got it. Mexico?
Yeah.
Mexico.
Oh, my husband. Where is
Oh, Rushmore.
Yes. Where did I live before I lived here?
California.
What's the big falls in between New York?
Niagara.
Yeah.
Ding.
Let the good times roll in Louisiana.
Marty, New Orleans.
Thank you. South by Southwest.
Austin.
City of Angels.
Keep going.
I have a big lisp and I live in Spain.
Wait. Did she say?
I
the
can't
last
speak
one?
Castilian. Oh, City of Angels. City of
Los
Angels.
Angeles.
Yes. I speak Castilian.
4, 3,
What?
Start.
2.
Oh, that's Gaudi and it's in Spain.
Oh, it's Spain.
Barcelona. So you got all the way to Barcelona. Good job.
That was really good.
We gotta figure out the audio quickly because we got a really good soundtrack here. So give me a second.
Okay, Pat, I might have it.
You might. Oh, you connected to my Bluetooth. Way to go.
I'll play something.
Anyway, looks like. Let me tally it up here. You guys got.
108.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of 15. So great job. Team 2, you ready? Come on up, Team 2. ladies, have a seat on the couch there. You're not done yet.
Andy Griffith.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So I like that song you're playing there, Dan. Can you just play that for a minute? For this next one? Thank you, Dan. We're gonna do that. So here's where we left off. That's me in London. That's me in Hawaii. That's me in San Francisco. That's me in Florida. That's me back in Paris. Thank you, Team 1. Jenna, what was your last vacation?
Middleburg, Virginia.
Middleburg, Virginia. Very cool. Please introduce yourself.
Carly.
Carly, right. And what was your last vacation, Carly?
My last vacation was also Middleburg.
Also, Middleburg. A lot of couples vacations amongst the teams here. Okay then. Dan, you ready with the music?
Oh yeah.
You gonna tell us when it's 1 minute or just turn it off at 1 minute?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Ready, go!
Where are you going next week? Boston. Yes.
Ding,
Okay. Where does the Queen live? England. London.
ding!
Movie stars? Marilyn Monroe. Yeah. Oh, a place? Movie stars, film industry, Hollywood. Yeah.
Ding!
Guess the place that was mentioned in the last, evidently Pat's been there many times, and there are presidents carved into a monument. Mount Rushmore. Yeah.
Ding!
The Arch and big underwear. Say good.
Ding!
Capital of Argentina. I went there. Yeah, you did. Begins with a B. Yeah. Followed by an A.
Oh, wait.
We lost that one.
Wait, did you get it?
No. It is the capital of Argentina. Oh, you already did it. Oh,
Okay,
we
sorry.
did.
Last one. Okay, we're gonna give you Buenos Aires because I screwed up the clicking. My bad. We're new at this, guys. Come around, come around. Let us count how many points you got. I hope it's not a tie because I don't have a tiebreaker. 1, 2,
4,
3.
5. Really? Buenos Aires was 6.
Buenos Aires was 6. Oh, all right. Well, looks like Team 1 is our winners. Yeah. But we have prizes for everybody. So. Stick around for a second. Yeah. Consolation prize. We have green tea. There you go. And bubbles. And our winners, team 1, you want to come up here? You each get green tea. And you get free tickets to the next improv show. There you go. Does anybody else want more green tea? We've got a lot of green tea. You want an extra box? Okay. My mom gave us a lot of green tea. You want some more green tea, Carly? You shook your head no. You can just pass it out to everyone running. All right. So that was Where in the World is Pat? Oh yeah, speaker's going again. Next we got Chris Baronato. Chris is a writer. You may have read some of his work in the Savannah Morning News Do. And I think you wrote for Connected sometime,
I wrote for
maybe?
Connect,
Yeah.
and then Murmur back in the day, if anyone remembers Murmur magazine.
Cool.
Savannah. Yeah.
I gotta look that one up.
Savannah, yeah, everything.
Very cool. And I think he has a t-shirt that he wants me to wear for some reason.
No, this t-shirt's very important to the story. It's very meaningful to it, and I asked Pat earlier on if he'd put it on to model it for everybody for the show.
Nice.
Here we go.
I really appreciate it. This will, I mean, really sell the story, I think.
What do you guys think?
My mom made this shirt for me, by the way. This image, this bizarre image. My mom drew that and made like the stencil and everything.
It looks like a tomato with arms and legs falling off a tree.
Yeah, and actually, like, the look on his face and kind of the sensations he's experiencing is kind of related to my story, too. Not that I bring that up or anything, but it just occurred to me looking at that shirt.
All right.
All right.
So you got the clicker.
Here's my clicker.
Go for it.
Okay. So, about 20 years ago, my wife Courtney, who's sitting in the audience here, and this was just 20 years ago. That's our cat Clementine. And the three of us, we went on a road trip to Brunswick, Maine to go visit my folks. And it was Courtney's first time meeting my parents. And it went really well. You know, they got along, you know, they liked her, she liked them, mission accomplished. So there was one like moment where things like, for Courtney, were kind of hard. We went out to a restaurant in Portland, and she had heard all about Maine lobster. So she wanted to have like the Maine lobster experience. So she ordered the lobster ravioli at this restaurant, and it gave her food poisoning. And so she spent the whole first night, and she was mortified. She felt so awful about being thrown up in the toilet all night long, first night meeting my parents. Now, against our better judgment, a week later, we decided to get lobster again. So like on our last night, my dad took us to this shack right by the water, where the lobster boats would come up right to the dock and unload the lobsters. And it was like 3 lobsters for $15. And they serve them on a paper plate with like plastic utensils. And I really admired its simplicity and its authenticity, but it really wasn't very good. I mean, the lobster are young. I don't know if you've had like soft shell lobster compared to hard shell, but the soft shell, it, like, at least these right here, like you break into it and like the critters are full of mostly water before you got to any meat. Like they're bad.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had those 2 bad experiences. And then the next day we got back in the car, said our goodbyes, and started heading back home, the 24-hour drive back to Savannah. And halfway into the day, we decided to stop for lunch. And we decided to stop at McDonald's, and I saw this sign on the window. Now, I was like, oh my God, it's real. The McLobster. I heard of it, but I didn't really think I was gonna get a chance to try it. Now, I'm not from Maine. My parents moved to Maine like after I moved off to college and everything. So, you know, I don't consider myself a Mainer, but for some reason my pride was hurt. Because for some reason in my mind, you know, I connected my parents. I wanted Courtney to like my parents, and I wanted her to like Maine. And for some reason I felt like because lobster is part of Maine's identity, that if she didn't like lobster, she wasn't gonna like my parents. So I wanted to prove to her that this was gonna be really good. And she's like, I told her, I'm gonna order this. And she's like, why would you do that? That's gonna be disgusting. Like, please don't order that. I'm like, I'm gonna do it. Well, the joke's on her, because I did order it, and it looked like this. Now, I wanted, like, you know, I wanted this to be the cap off to like a lobster trilogy, which had like a redemption arc, where at the end everything would work out, and it turns out that surprise, like water bugs are actually delicious. But it turned out more to be like a horror trilogy, where like the third movie has a lower budget and the ending's rushed. And it's not even complete. The trilogy's not over because at the very end you see like the guy's hand bursts out of the grave, so you know the killer's coming back for a 4th movie that nobody wants. So anyway, after lunch, we hit the road again and we're driving along. And then by the time we got to New York City, we hit gridlock traffic, and it was just completely stopped. Just standstill, bumper to bumper, not even crawling, just like stopped cold. And that was the moment that a lobster claw burst from its grave. And I had to go to the bathroom worse than I've ever had to go in my entire life. I mean, I was like just sweating and writhing around in the seat. I felt like John Hurt in Alien right before the xenomorph like bursts out his chest. Except in this case, the creature was trying to get out a different way. And Yeah, so, I'm sitting there, like, just feeling awful. Courtney's laughing at me, but, she felt bad for my predicament, but she's laughing, and I understood it because, to be honest, I was laughing too, because when people have to poop, including yourself, it's funny, right? I mean, yeah, it's very funny when you have to poop, no matter how bad it is. So, all of a sudden, like, as I was curled up in a ball in the seat, I kind of, like, turned around and, like, looked in the back, and then I looked at Courtney, and I got this kind of, like, terrible idea in my head. And I looked at her trying to telepathically let her know what I was thinking. And she looked at me, and she turned and she looked in the back seat, and looked at me, and then I looked back again, and she looked back, and we looked at each other, and I said, I think I'm gonna shit in Clementine's litter box. And she said, do it. And I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, I don't know how much longer I can take this. I'm gonna shit in Clementine's litter box. She said, do it. Now, I wasn't sure if, like, I started thinking about the logistics of actually climbing into that cramped back seat with all the luggage and everything else, and, like, squatting down back there to use it. And I also was kind of questioning if Courtney actually really approved of me doing it. I thought she was just kind of playing along. But then she pulled out her camera and was like, do it! Like, I'll take a picture of it. It'll be hilarious. Now, like, whenever we both tell this story in polite company, the story always ends the same way, where, we finally get off, like, I hold it in, we finally get off of the exit, we get to a gas station, and she cracks up as I, like, walk across a very long parking lot, like an old man, just like, because I can't stand up straight, it hurts so bad. And that's the way we usually tell the story, and then we're like, oh my god, wouldn't it have been so funny if, like, I really did it? And Courtney's like, wouldn't it have been crazy if you really did it?
You really.
I did it. I really did it. No, that's not really it. Like, this is a picture of, like, kitty litter cake that I found on Pinterest. To Courtney's credit, she didn't actually take a picture of it, fortunately. It actually looked similar to that, though. I assure you. Now, for a brief moment, like, the relief that I felt was just, like, euphoric. And I didn't regret it for a second. But then, like, as soon as the euphoria wore off, like, the implications of what had happened started to set in. And after that moment, everything went wrong. I mean, first, there was the smell. It was like a miasma, just, like, spreading disease. It was like a cloud that you see, cloud of mist over the graveyard. It was this noxious fog that you could, like, touch and feel and, like, smell and taste, and you could see it like stink lines from a cartoon. And so that was awful. And then my cat Clementine, who had been so quiet the whole trip, so quiet in fact that we had to check on her periodically just to make sure that she was still alive, just got so upset about what I had done to her litter box, and just started this, like, rhythmic, repeated wailing, just it just would not stop. It was really, like, heightening the anxiety that I was feeling about what was going on. And then to make things worse, as I'm, like, cramped around back there, like, trying to figure out what to do with my pants down around my knees, my foot hit the edge of the litter box and just sent everything flying, like a grenade had gone off. Just human filth and feline filth just flying all over the backseat of the car. And at this point, Courtney was, like, laughing so hard, but also, like, choking on the noxious fumes. And the thing about my lovely wife is that and this is a problem because, like, I make her laugh, and when she laughs too hard, she starts coughing. So she's coughing from laughing, coughing and gagging from the smell, so she rolls down all the windows. And now we're, like, stuck in traffic, so there's cars full of families all around us. And with the windows down, they can hear, like, me cursing and the cat, and Courtney, like, laughing. And then I didn't even consider, how I was going to clean myself up after this. Trying to remember where I am. Oh yeah, okay. So, like, I was like a medic in a war zone. I was, like, yelling for help. I was like, give me some tissues, some napkins. We got a situation. I need immediate evac. All she had in the front seat for me was, like, a couple of McDonald's napkins with some ketchup on the corner. That's all I had to work with. So I got really desperate, and my legs were starting to cramp up. I didn't know what to do, so, like, I just pulled off my t-shirt and like clean myself up for that. So I'm like pretty much naked in the back seat of the car. And fortunately I was like crouched down low enough to where like people in the other cars couldn't totally see what was going on. And I was trying really hard not to make eye contact with anybody. But every time I looked up, I'd see, you know, like this. I'd look up again, I'd see this. There'd be some poor kid who's gonna be scarred forever. I'd look up, I'd see that. Now, at the peak of all this naked chaos and laughing and gagging and me cursing, all of a sudden the traffic started to move again. And we all just got quiet. I mean, even Clementine shut up. And traffic moved, and it took less than 3 minutes to go around the bend and get on an exit. And we made it to a gas station. And Courtney, I cleaned myself up. Courtney got me a change of clothes out of the trunk. And we cleaned up the car together, and everything was okay. Now, and all the while, we were just giggling hysterically about it. Like we knew this was actually kind of a fun story, despite beer. Okay. Now, there's a reason I tell this story because, I've been to Germany. I've been to Prague and other parts of Europe. I've been to Disneyland and Universal Studios. I've even been to Ibiza in the early 90s with a Christian youth group trip. And in hindsight, this is probably the story I should have told tonight. But, the reason I tell this story is, this was the litter incident was a transformative moment. Vacations, they're not just about rest and relaxation. They can be about anything. They can be a really important bonding experience. And that situation was a trial by fire that could have either made a relationship stronger or just completely torched it to the ground. Now, I just also want to mention that I didn't buy any souvenirs on this trip, so I saved that t-shirt as a memento. And I want to thank Pat for wearing it for me tonight, so that people can see it. I know it looks like sparkly white, but that took like a full bottle of bleach to get it looking like that again. I actually haven't worn it since, as much as it means,
You never know.
I appreciate you wearing that. Okay, but anyway, take it back to the lobster imagery. Oh yeah, I'll take that.
I'm just doing a reenactment.
I cleaned, oh yeah, exactly. It was exactly like that. Now, to get back to the lobster imagery, one thing that occurred to me, about this whole week of, lobster and other incidences is that ordering lobster is a bit like love. So, sometimes you order lobster and it's just kind of meh, or sometimes it's just absolutely terrible and has terrible consequences. And, eventually you just find your lobster. And if you take anything away from this anecdote I've told you tonight, it's this. Make sure you marry the lobster that sticks by you when you take a crap in a kitty litter box in the middle of New York City traffic. Because that's the kind of lobster that mates for life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris Baronato. Oh, would you like a shirt back? There you go. Interesting fact, I went to Maine last month and I learned that lobsters sometimes live over 100 years. And like the oldest one ever recorded was like 120 years old, so pretty amazing. I don't know if they're like monogamous for life or not. Probably not. All right, so we got another game. We're going to try to get through it real quick because we're already a little behind schedule. We started a little late, but we're going to do this game real quick, then we're going to have intermission, then we're going to get to the second half of the show, so stick around. This next game is... What's in Ruby's box? So we have Ruby McGorry, coming on stage right now. She's grabbing her box, so just get ready. I'm gonna need, what, yeah?
You said it's magic.
It's magic, yeah. Well, there's probably magic in the box, yeah. And there's something else too, just wait. The way this game works is Ruby has a box and somebody has to guess what's in it. Now, here she comes with the box. There it is. Wait, put it more in the middle of the stage there so everyone can see it. Perfect. And can I get a volunteer who doesn't know Ruby? If you've never met Ruby, you're eligible to be this contestant. And let me remind you, there are prizes. So I see one volunteer who's never met Ruby. Brendan. Brendan, you swear on your life you never met this local celebrity? All right. Brendan is also somewhat of a celebrity. Thank you, stagehand Ruby and game runner. So, Brendan, have you ever played the game 20 Questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So basically, you get 20 questions.
20, okay.
Yeah, and Ruby's going to answer the questions. So have a seat right here. And the thing is, it's timed. So you have like a minute and a half.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So this is like a really difficult version of 20 questions.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me before the game starts?
It's probably not bigger than that box, so I think I'm good. No, I think I'm good.
Okay, you want to hold the microphone?
No, I'll just project for them.
All right, good for you. Ruby, would you like a microphone?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ready? Brendan?
Sure.
Here we go.
Is it a vegetable?
No.
Is it a mineral?
No.
So, is it an animal?
Yes.
Okay. Has the animal passed?
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's not a living animal. Is it a cat?
No.
Oh. Is it a dog?
No.
Oh, good. Is it some sort of taxidermied lizard?
No.
I'm really running out of. Is it in the bird family?
No.
Oh. What about like wildlife? Is it like wildlife? Oh. Is it a fish of some sort? Wait, hold on. Fish? I don't. Some form of ape?
No.
Oh, okay. Tiny bison.
No.
Dang it. Tiny buffalo. Different but similar.
No.
There's other kinds of animals, I'm sure. I just can't think of any right now. Baby rhinoceros.
No.
That wouldn't fit, right. Tiny giraffe. Probably wouldn't fit either. No.
I'll give you, you have 2 questions left.
2?
Let me just give you a clue.
Oh, good.
So Ruby said it's an animal, and you've done a great job of guessing animals.
There's a
but
lot of animals out there.
This particular animal, it's part of an animal, and it's not alive anymore.
Okay.
And you were close earlier when you were guessing vegetables.
That's not. Okay.
So I'll give you two more questions. For Ruby, not for me.
Closer to vegetables. Wait, is it a steak?
No.
Very close.
Pork chops.
You were extremely close.
Oh my
It
God.
is.
It's a cheeseburger.
You got it right, cheeseburger.
Wait.
Yes, it is a cheeseburger.
Okay.
But it's a special cheeseburger.
Very special.
This is a cheeseburger that is exactly 14 years old?
13.
13 years old today. Today. It has its birthday on the bun. Ruby, is it all right if Brendan takes a close look at it and describes it for the audience?
Are you a practitioner of medicine of some sort? Okay.
I'm a former McDonald's employee.
I've actually seen a really old McDonald's cheeseburger before. This is not the first one I've seen in my life. I used to have a physician growing up that would keep one, and in just roughly, not nearly as beautiful and bedazzled as this, But he would keep it in his office and said, that's what fast food does if you don't eat it or if you do. So I stopped eating fast food then.
Ruby, did you stop eating fast food after you purchased this hamburger?
Yes.
Congratulations. And so every year Ruby has a birthday for this hamburger. Today's the birthday, so let's all sing happy birthday to Patty. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Patty. Happy birthday to you. All right, Brendan, you get a prize even though you didn't win. Surprise.
Okay.
So hang around for your prize.
I'm not going anywhere.
I think you'll like it.
Yes.
It's got the meat in it.
You get a free show coupon. And you also get this wine bottle glass. So this is, do you drink wine? Or do you know someone who drinks wine?
My wife loves wine.
Well, then you can give this to her because it's finally a wine glass that fits my needs.
It's the whole, it holds the whole
It's the
bottle.
entire bottle in a glass. So congratulations to your wife.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ruby. Guys, everyone, Ruby's going to tell a story in the second half of the show, so stick around for that, right? And, and Ruby is so talented. She is an artist, and she also is a chef, and she made cupcakes for everybody. So, come get your cupcakes at intermission. I just wanted everyone to know that proceeds from tonight's show are going to Save Our Youth, which is a charity organization that provides clothes and toys and Easter egg hunts to kids all around Savannah. Latasha Barnes runs it, and I know her, so I thought it would be great if we donated some money to her. So just feel good about yourselves. And this weekend they're doing their summer jam where they're raising money for back to school supplies and stuff. So that's really nice. And now it's time for intermission. second half of the Show and Tell Showcase. As you can see, the vibe has changed a little bit here. We've got Liv to my right. Lovely Liv. She is an improv student, former improv student of comedy, but tonight she's going to be improv drawing, which I think is new territory for her, but she's a very experienced illustrator, and I was blown away by her skills the other night, so we're very lucky to have her. And I guess I'll just go ahead and roll right into it. We have Amy Page Condon. Amy Page Condon, you in the audience tonight? Oh, right there, right there. Amy is a good friend of mine. She's a writer, storyteller. She got a new job today, I think, at Savannah Morning News as a story consultant, I think, content consultant. An editor. She's an editor. Okay. So come on up, Amy. Yeah, you can be the mascot for now. You know, it's kind of a loose thing here. So here you go.
So a lot of people who know me now here at Savannah don't actually know that I have a boundless love for Elvis, and that this has been long standing. The summer before I turned 5, it wasn't the summer I turned 5, it was a couple of months after my 5th birthday. And I heard the song Burn in Love on the radio and found out that Elvis was coming out with a new album. So I asked my mom, can we go get the album? And she kind of was like, I don't think so, dear. And one of the reasons why is she had grown concerned about me. Because when any of the adults in our lives would go, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Which you never ask a 5-year-old, but they would. And I would say, I want to be a Las Vegas showgirl. I want to be one of Dean Martin's backup dancers called a gold digger. So again, she was very concerned about the direction I was taking in life. And also she did not cotton to my desire for any of the kids that grew up in the early 70s that wore the plastic Barbie shoes with lots of spangles on them. So she was trying to redirect me, and she goes, I don't really think it's age appropriate. But then she said something where she goes, but of course, if you had your own money, you could buy whatever you want. Words she would come to regret. Because instead of throwing a 7-alarm snit, which I could have done, I went to my dresser, I pulled out the top drawer, and I had been collecting my entire 5 years of life, every birthday dollar, every holiday money, and every quarter for making cornbread or doing a chore. And I counted out, because I'd seen the ad in the newspaper that it was $5.52. I counted it out, went to my dad and said, can you take me to Leonard Brothers? And I'm gonna buy this album. So I did. Here it is. Still, 49 years later, I walked straight to that music department. I wasn't even 3 feet tall. Grabbed this album, walked in there with my money in a baggie, put this on the counter, I couldn't even see to the top of it, slid it across to the lady, counted out my change. She leaned over and she goes, are you sure this is what you want? And I went, lady, it's my money. The following summer, my mom announces we're taking a family vacation, a road trip with my Grammy, my granddaddy, and we're going to Nashville, Tennessee. So we pull out the atlas and she shows me where it is. And in the middle, I see Memphis. And I said, so can we stop in Memphis and meet Elvis? And she goes, oh dear, I don't think so. We're gonna have to get daddy and granddaddy back to work. We're gonna just spend our time in Nashville. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to work this. So we get to Nashville, and it's all about music. I think I have an in. So we get there, and I mean, clearly we could have been the Clampets, because we were loaded on our blue and white Malibu Classic. We get all, like, 4 adults, 2 kids, and we go to the brand new Country Music Hall of Fame. We go to the Grand Ole Opry, where I ask if I can please, we go to the Mother Church, the Roman Auditorium, and I ask if I can see Loretta Lynn's dressing room. So they take me back to a closet and they say, hey, here it is. And I'm just stunned. And then they let me stand on stage in front of that big, wonderful microphone, and I belted out a couple of verses of Coal Miner's Daughter. And then we go to a house tour of different country music stars. And at that time, they all lived in the neighborhoods. Nothing was fancy. And I kept thinking if we got up to Minnie Pearl's house, we'd see a price tag hanging from the roof, but we didn't. But, you know, this was sort of an outgrowth of, you know, every Saturday night. I don't know how many, I want to hear it if y'all grew up this way, but a lot of Southern kids grew up. Every Saturday night you watch Hee Haw and, you know, Porter Wagner with St. Dolly. And then, and my grandmother would always listen to the Grand Ole Opry on the radio, and so we would go to, and we would listen to all of these music stars. So I knew who Ernest Tubb was, so we went to the Ernest Tubb record store right across from Tootsie's Music and the Hatch Print Show Shop. So we totally did the music scene. The only things that we did that had nothing to do with music is we went to this really weird replica of the Parthenon that still exists and is an art museum today. It is in better shape than the real Parthenon in Nashville. And we went to the Hermitage, which was President Andrew Jackson's, God bless, plantation. And the only picture I could find of this trip is my brother and I standing there, and me holding my pigtails out like this. So I know we were headed back to Fort Worth, Texas, and so I asked, can we go to Memphis? Everybody's done with this trip. Everybody wants to get home. My dad's got to get back to work. And there is great wailing and gnashing of teeth in the back seat. And I throw that 7-alarm snit that I must have. I just lose it. So my dad's like, okay, we will stop in Memphis, in the city, and get gas on Elvis Presley Boulevard, and we will drive by Graceland. When we get to the gas station, where people still, you know, the attendant comes and they actually fill up your gas tank, he mentioned something. My dad is like shooting the shit with him and says something, and the guy goes, oh, well, yeah, Elvis is here. He's in town. And yesterday he gave out a Cadillac to a teacher. So all of a sudden my dad wants to go to Graceland. So we make a U-turn and we go to the pearly gates. They're actually white wrought iron with green notes and green curly cute Elvises, skinny Elvis, not big Elvis, but skinny Elvis, on them. So we get up to the gates. There's a picture of me in this little green and white polka dot dress that my mom had sewn for me that looks exactly like the colors on the gate. It was planned so perfectly. But there's a guy standing there at the gate, and I start flirting with him. Like ridiculously flirting. Again, my mother's just worried. You know, she thinks her daughter's gonna be a showgirl. And so I am just merciless. I even tell him, I go so far as to tell him, I'm going to die. So that he would think that something was wrong with me. All I was thinking is, that's gonna happen someday. Finally, I'm getting nowhere, and I go, can he just wave at me? Is he even here? And he goes, well, yeah, he is here. He is here in the house. And I go, can he wave at me? He goes to the booth, he puts in a call, and he goes, I need you to look over in that corner. And a hand comes out of a window in the far top right corner and waves at me. And I'm like, we can go home now. This is awesome. Now, I have zero clue if that was Elvis. It could have been one of the Memphis Mafia, it could have been one of the Jordanaires, it could have been his guitarist, Scotty Moore, no clue. But I carry this memory my whole life that I got to see Elvis wave at me. So years later, I tell this story to my husband. So when he proposes to me, he has I Can't Help Falling in Love playing in the background. And then a few years later, we're driving from here to Fort Worth, Texas, and I said, hey, how about we take a really windy route and we go through the Blues Trail up through Mississippi. So we take a stop in Tupelo at the little shack, truly a little shotgun shack, where Elvis grew up. And just proof that great things can come out of humble places. And then there's a building that's a museum to him, and it's like stained glass Elvis everywhere. And then let's go to Memphis. We can make a little detour through Memphis. So we do. We go to Sam Phillips' Son Studios to see where Elvis got his start. We walk down Bill Street to go listen to the blues, to sort of soak up those great, wonderful, unsung, uncredited black artists, blues artists that inspired him. And then we drove to Graceland. And we get out, and the walls are covered with graffiti now. People have written messages. And I tell him the story about how we were on vacation. I tell Brian we were on vacation 5 years after that time I went to Memphis. And we were in Toronto visiting aunts and cousins when Elvis died. My brother runs upstairs and goes, "Elvis is dead." And I'm like, "That's so mean," and I slug him. And he goes, "No, no, no, I'm telling you the truth." And he turns on the TV, and and the breaking news is that he's died. And so that night we're watching all the news, and I could think of nothing better in life than to be able to stand outside the gates of Graceland, be interviewed, and have Elvis fan as how I was identified. I was like, that would be the ultimate. So I'm telling Brian this story, and he goes, "You can still see the window." And so, because it was winter, there were no leaves on the tree, and you could still see that corner window where one time the king waved to me. Thank you.
You weren't even looking at all the amazing masterpiece going on behind you there.
Can we get coffee?
Can you pull any of that up, Liv? It's amazing. She can draw and save it.
Oh my God, she's got my pigtails.
Pretty cool.
That's so awesome.
Pretty cool. Great story, Amy. Liv, do you have that picture?
Oh yes, I do.
We even have a photo that Amy supplied, so there you go. Amy, you want to tell us what each of those pictures are?
Sure. There is Elvis, and so my aunt still sends me for my birthday every year Elvis cards. And so that's one of the most recent. That's my brother and I, so cool, on the steps of the Hermitage. And then it's hard to see, but that's the Grand Ole Opry in the upper right, and that's my grandmother, my grandfather, my dad. And I'm sitting on a stool singing in the microphone, and my brother's in the white shorts. So you can just sort of see this ghosted version of me right there. And then the one below it is of, my brother still has that affliction, by the way. He thinks it's bigger than it is. That's me and my brother on some piece of military machinery, and my grandparents who do not look happy at all.
Well done, Amy. Thank you. All right, everybody. So we still have cupcakes up here. Anybody want some cupcakes? I can pass them around. I'll bring them back to you, Sean. Good. And I'll bring some to you, Lise. I should mention my sister's back there, and my mom, and my stepdad, Dan. So thank you guys for coming tonight. I got them the VIP seats. All right, next up, we got Lillian Grant Baptiste. Lillian is a motivational speaker, to me at least, and I see her just, whipping it up all around town. And why don't you tell us a couple things about yourself, and then give us your story here.
All right, awesome. So good to be here. I do a lot around the city, but I love doing storytelling. That's my thing, because I think there's so much power in stories. That's how we gather strength, so I love storytelling, okay? So, when I think about vacationing is about getting away from responsibilities, rigmarole, routine, ritual. It's really about escape. So I'm going to tell you tonight, a story from the Gullah Geechee tradition. A story that was passed down from my great-grandmother. A story about how a people use the power of words to escape freedom. So if you would, listen to the story. They said way back when our people lived in Africa, there were certain of our people who knew how to fly. They tell me that they were like beautiful blackbirds. They would just step up and they would spread their arms and they would become like wings. And they would fly like beautiful blackbirds up against the blue up yonder. But then the slave catchers came and brought misery to the land. But they said that there were certain Africans that still knew the power of flight. And they came here to these shores and they looked just like other Africans, but they were different because they remembered the magical words that resided deep within them. And they said that there was a man, an elder by the name of Jeremiah, who worked on a rice plantation not too far from where we are. And they tell me that he and his daughter worked on this plantation. And this particular day, they said it was hot, had to be 100 degrees. And as he and his daughter worked, his daughter Sarah stood tall, but yet afraid. And as she worked, she became weary and worn, and they tell me that Sarah fell to the ground, and no sooner than she fallen, the one that they call the overseer said, "Get up, there's work to be done, get up." And old Sarah stood back up, tall, but yet afraid. And she continued to work. But she was weary and worn and tired. And she fell down again. This time he whipped her until her dress fell like rags to the ground. And as the overseer walked away, her father Jeremiah stood right next to her and he said, "It's time, daughter, to do as you know how to do." And they tell me that old Jeremiah whispered some deep, dark, Gullah Geechee words, and something within her began to stir. They tell me that old Sarah stood back up. She lifted her arms and they became like wings. Jeremiah said, "Fly," and he whispered those deep, dark, black Gullah Geechee words, and she began to fly, and she flew over the cotton field. She flew over the rice field and the indigo field and tobacco field. She flew over weary days. She escaped, and she flew over the middle passage, and she flew over the bones of our ancestors that lined the bottom of the Atlantic. And they tell me that she flew home to freedom. Well, the overseer stood there perplexed, confused and confounded, but it was too late because Sarah had escaped to freedom. Well, the next day it was even hotter than it was the day before. And there was a young man, couldn't have been any more than 9 or 10, and that young man was working and he fell down, and the overseer was there and he whipped him. He said, "Get up! There's work to be done, get up!" And the young man stood, but there was Jeremiah. And as that overseer, as he walked away, old Jeremiah stood right next to him, and he whispered some deep, dark African words, Gullah Geechee words, and something within that young man began to stir. And they tell me that he flipped over and he rode the wind like a horse. And he flew over the cotton fields and the indigo fields and the rice fields and the tobacco fields. He flew over weary days and worn nights. He flew over weeping and wailing, and he flew home to freedom. And all of a sudden, old Jeremiah stood there and he whispered at first. And then his whispers became like a cry. And they tell me that he began to speak those deep, dark African Gullah Geechee word, and all of a sudden, all around and those Africans, those Gullah Geechee, began to stand up, and they began to fly one by 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 one, and they flew over the rice field and the indigo field and the cotton field. They flew over weary days and worn nights. They flew over weeping and wailing, and they flew home to freedom. And I believe that one day we will wake up with those deep, dark words that reside deep within the collective memory of who we are as a people, and we will fly again. We will fly above ignorance and poverty and strife and bitterness. We will fly above systemic racism. We will fly above food deserts. We will fly above disparities. We will fly above homophobia. We will fly above all of those things that dismantle and disable and destroy our communities, because we will remember who we are. We will remember that we are descendants of a people who have been beaten but not broken, cast down but not destroyed, a people who have been shaken but not shattered. We will remember who we are. We will lift our arms and they will become like wings, and we will fly again. We will be shaken and awakened from our collective slumber, and we will remember the beauty of who we are, and we will lift our wings. You will call our names, but we won't answer, because we will fly away from here. No more weeping, no more wailing, no more bitterness, no more mass incarceration, no more all the things that hurt, bend, and break. We will fly again, because we will remember those words that live within us. We will remember, and we will fly again.
Thank you so much, Savannah. Did you see the beautiful artwork that was happening right behind you? Great story, collective memory, yes. I believe in that for sure. So, very inspiring. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I thought earlier that I should mention Jose Ray was going to be here tonight. Anybody know Jose Ray? He was going to be doing what Liv is doing, but his mom passed away, so he couldn't be here. So if any of you know him, you know, send your condolences and say that, you know, you wish you had seen him. Even though Liv is doing just incredible, I'm really happy to have her. I should also give a shout out to my wife who's in back there, Annie. Thank you, Annie. She's filming all of this right now, as she often does, filming whatever I do. And she also kind of co-produced this event, so she gets a lot of credit. Okay, next up we got Ruby McGrory again. And Ruby, I'm going to pass out some of your cupcakes like I said I was going to
do. Okay. That's a tough story to follow. So, your story comes from a very dark time. My story comes from a different dark time in human history. A time of ignorance, a time of great unknowing, a time before we had access to the sum total of all human knowledge at the tip of our finger. A time before smartphones and unlimited data. A very dark time. It's May, the year 2000. I know that doesn't seem like that long ago, but it really was a long time ago. Husband and I are on a road trip that starts in Antibes, France, with the
event that will forever be known as the time that I accidentally spent $23 on a pound of cherries. Which, a feat like that could never have happened if I had in my pocket a little converting device that could tell me what francs per kilo means in dollars per pound. I didn't have that technology. So, the plan for the trip was we drive 50 miles along the Mediterranean, meet some friends for dinner in Italy, take a left, head to the mountains. We did not have the technology to tap, 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 a little scroll, tap again, boom, we have a room for the night. That was not available to us. So we had to use such arcane tools as our eyes to find a place to sleep, which we did. We found a hotel right outside of San Remo in a small city called Arma d'Italia. I hop out, go to check us in while hubby, we'll call him Bill, goes to park the car. Inside the hotel, I meet the lovely couple who runs the place, and the gentleman of the couple, we'll call him Il Signore. He comes outside to show me where to park. At this point, I should tell you that one of my greatest regrets in life is that I do not speak, nor do I understand Italian. I grew up cranking pasta for my nanny while she was chattering away in Italian to her besties, and my great-grandfather did not speak a word of English, and yet the extent of my ability to communicate in Italian is to ask you ever so politely to pass me the butter. So Il Signore is very competent Italian speaker. I can't seem to understand him. It sounds like he's telling me that in order to park, what we have to do is come off the road, we have to cross the double yellow line, jump the curb, go around a concrete and steel barrier, and park on the sidewalk exactly where we're standing. So, like a proper tourist, to confirm, I shout everything back at him that he just said to me while pantomiming, and he nods. Great, I've got it. Now, somehow, I need to communicate this to husband. We don't each have our own cell phones with roaming in Europe. Our communal property, state-of-the-art Nokia flip phone with free nights and weekends is with the rest of our stuff either in London or Rhode Island, so that's not possible. Texting was a thing, but only just. Like, if it was a human, it would still smell like afterbirth, so that's not it. I'm standing there puzzling out how to transfer this information to husband when I see him driving down the road that we just came down in the car. I think, perfect. So I jump to the edge of the sidewalk and promptly start performing my freshly rehearsed pantomime to expertly explain to him that what he needs to do is cross the double yellow line, jump the curb, go around the steel and concrete barrier, and wait for pedestrians to scatter and park on the sidewalk. He doesn't get it. I have about 2 seconds to give him this information because there's no place for him to pull over and he's stuck in the line of traffic just flowing by. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with Italian drivers, but they're not the most patient. So, secure in the knowledge that either he's gonna find a place to park or he's gonna come around again, we wait. This time, Il Signore gets in on the action. So now the two of us are gesticulating madly and screaming on the side of the road, trying to tell a random motorist that he has to jump the double yellow lines, jump the curb, go around the steel and concrete barrier, and park on the sidewalk. Again, does not work. Try number 3, does not work. Finally, the next time he comes around, I know that he is insane with frustration and we're also losing light. So instead of trying to pantomime anymore, I run alongside the car until he can slow down enough for me to jump in. And I get in. In between breaths, I explain to him that our assigned parking lot that comes with the hotel requires us to go back to the spot where he saw Il Signore and I, and he has to cross the double yellow lines, jump the curb, go around the steel and concrete barrier, and park on the sidewalk. He does not agree. What would have been a very long and drawn out argument is cut short when he has to slam on the brakes so we can avoid a collision with a car that has just randomly backed into traffic in front of us. We do not hit the car. We stop just in time to notice that that car is pulling out of a parking spot. So, like a hot knife through butter, we just slide right into the parking spot. And it's not until we stop the car and we've taken our bags out that we realize the enormity of what has just happened in our world. We have just secured the last parking spot in all of Italy, possibly even all of Europe. So we're doing our little happy dance and we're figuring out what's going on with the meters. And I see a sign. It has words on it. They're in Italian, and I don't understand any of them. But I recognize a word that maybe from my high school Spanish could mean Tuesday, and it doesn't really bother me because it's Monday. And I think that maybe this would be a good time to have that little magical device that you have in your pocket where you can just punch some words into it and it instantly gives you a translation. Or I could take a picture of the sign and show it to Il Signore and he could tell me what it means. Or he could tell me, you know, to cross the double yellow lines and jump the curb and go around the concrete and steel barrier and park on the sidewalk. But we have just found the last parking spot in Italy. So we stay there. And I also think, what's the worst that could happen? We get a parking ticket in a rental car from a foreign country that we don't live in? Not my problem. If the sign says anything, it's about Tuesday, it's Monday. I don't care. So, welcome to Tuesday morning. Husband and I are enjoying our lovely complimentary breakfast that comes with the hotel. It is hard rolls and butter. And I know that doesn't sound amazing, but the thing about Italians is they love and respect food so much that even the simplest things are done beautifully and perfectly, and they can't possibly do a bad job of it, even in a crappy tourist class hotel on the coast. So I am deep in my butter reverie, picturing these blissful cows, and they're under a benevolent orb of glowing sun, and husband knocks on my coffee cup, and the coffee was very good. And he says, "Excuse me, I just want to remind you that it's 7:30 and the Alps await." Okay, so I grab another roll, spread some butter on it, stick it in my pocket, and head out the door. As we go out the door, I notice not one, not two, but 3 cars parked on the sidewalk next to the hotel. And nobody is fazed by this. Apparently this is where you park in Italy. There's a lot of pedestrians, none of them are fazed. And there's way more pedestrians than there were the night before, which is weird, but whatever, it's Italy. So we kind of fall in line with a bunch of them as we're turning the corner to go to the city center to get to the car. And as the crowd ahead of us breaks a little bit, I see that the city center that we had been in the night before is gone. What had once been a city center with streets and traffic and cars and parking spots is not there. It has been completely engulfed by a market. I'm talking tents and livestock and marquees and stalls of vegetables, and they're selling everything from live chickens to horse meat and drain cleaner and nightgowns and carbon paper, because that was a thing that people used way back when. And all these people, and none of them seem fazed at all by this. Like every Tuesday, a market just magically appears, like it has every Tuesday for the past 500 years. there was one person who might have been a little fazed by this, and that would be the crockery vendor, who we had something in common with, and that would be the last parking spot in all of Italy. While we were snoozing away in the dark early hours of the morning and sweating out the remnants of our celebratory Valpolicella, she was arriving to her assigned vendor spot to find our car. And her response is to do the only thing that she could do, which was build her stall. And so she set about, angrily and rather precariously, to build castles of crockery around our car. I'm talking fish platters and buttercrocks and soup bowls, ice cream bowls, teacups, mugs, everything right there around our car. There are even boxes on top of our car. So unless somebody came by and they were looking to outfit a Greek wedding with plenty of plates to smash in the fire, we were not going to the mountains anytime soon. So what I figured out is that if I had that magic device in my pocket that would tell me what the sign said, it probably would have said something along the lines of, hey, just so you know, you probably don't want to park here on a Monday night because in the middle of Tuesday morning, this whole area is going to erupt into a huge marketplace, and it's going to be built around and possibly on top of your car. So for the love of God, would you please just cross the yellow lines, jump the curb, go around the steel and concrete barrier, and park on the damn sidewalk.
Okay, Ruby, and so the drawing, I gotta say, it's getting better and better. Ruby, I don't know if you noticed, but like this is the universal symbol for Italian.
Yeah.
And so Liv got that like right away, and then she had these arms crisscrossing when you were giving directions. It's very funny. Oh, and then to top it off, Liv remembered the actual photo of the parked car with all the stuff around it. So there it is. What a mess. How do you say mess in Italian? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Molto messe. Great, that was wonderful. Okay, so we're like pushing 10 p.m. here. One last story. Thank you guys for sticking around. I want to give a special thanks, shout out to Dan and Danger in the booth. Dan on music and Danger with his master skills setting up all the lights and audio visuals. We're really pushing the limits of technology here tonight, so gotta give Danger his credit. I also want to thank John and Bree for taking a chance on this idea that I had. A couple months ago, I was talking to John, and I said, you know, there's just so many great storytellers here in Savannah, and they haven't had an outlet, you know, in over a year or almost 2 now for some of them, and it's about time. And he said, oh, well, how does July 29th look on your calendar? I was like, for me? Okay. So we went ahead and did it, and I think it's been pretty good. So without further ado, let's bring up our last storyteller, Ms. Pat Gunn. Please silence your cell phones. I should have told you guys that at the start. Ms. Pat Gunn. Now, Pat Gunn, I'm sorry, I should say Sister Pat. That's how everybody knows it. Sister Pat here is the founder of Underground Tours of Savannah. And I highly recommend her tour. You'll learn all sorts of things about River Street that you never would have dreamed, and then everything beyond River Street. So here she is, Miss Sister Pat.
Y'all. Well, I know y'all want to go home, but let me wake you up a little bit in terms of reminding you that you are a drum, a percussion instrument. So I just want to have a little bit of the 400-year-old beat that's been in the Gullah Geechee community in the 4 states that are officially Gullah Geechee: North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and the northern tip of Jacksonville, then scoop on down to St. Augustine, Florida. So I want to give you this beat before I set the table, and then y'all turn and go on home. Is that a good deal? I want to thank Front Porch Improv for the opportunity to do a benefit for an organization. I know Natasha Barnes, and this is a wonderful thing, so thank you. So remember that your hands and your feet are percussion instruments, and I want to just take you on a journey 400 years back. This is longer than 400 years. It's like centuries, but here in America, 400 years goes like this. One more time. Woo! Yeah! And at the end, we simply say 3 times, repeat after me. Ashe-o. 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 That simply means all will be well. Rememory is something else, you know? I want to say that when I got the call about doing an improv, I love improv, but I'm Gullah Geechee. So my improv is different from your improv. Put a little seasoning in it, you know. Can I get an amen, Sister Lillian Baptiste, my sister? Story time. I want to let you know that, you know, I was born and raised in Springfield Park, they now call it Cloverdale, and then we moved on the east side. But I want you to know Gullah Geechee folk are all over the city and town. And sometimes we take the H out of the word and put it on the shelf. Sometimes we take the R, it just depends on how we feel it. So I want to set the table before I tell you my story. And the name of my story is The Golden Girls Go to Cali in California. I want to let you know I have on East Anderson Street on Havisham and Anderson, where we lived at 313 East Anderson. I want to let you know that my mother had 10 children, as you guys say, but auntie them say she had 10 children. And I want you to know that one of my brothers, number 2, he was a drummer, and he was a drummer for James Brown. True story. I want you to know at 313 East Anderson, James Brown was brilliant because he would bring his bus to Savannah. He didn't have money to hire all these band players as he went all over the chicken circuit. Well, actually, they called it chitlin circuit. But my mama didn't like chitlin, so she said chicken circuit. So he was clever enough to hire folks along the way. So in the Savannah area, he would pick up my brother, my cousin, them. Everybody was in James Brown band in this area. So in the middle of the night, I'm telling y'all, a bus pulled up at 313 Anderson Street. And my mother would have all of their breakfast foods ready: salmon croquettes and grits, shrimp and grits, or as we say, swimp and grits. The best homemade biscuits ever. She and the lady next door knew how to fix it, but give the recipe to nobody else. I want you to know that they were engaged in James Brown, the music of that era. I'm talking about the 50s and the 60s. I want you to know that my mother had 6 sisters. And so all 7 of them, everybody knew, they called them the Golden Girls. You talking about the Golden Girls on TV? You have not met the Golden Girls from the East Side. The Golden Girls from the East Side, they're like this. If you bottle 1, you gotta bottle all 7. So I have to be so honest with you, we didn't really know what a vacation was, you know. What we knew about was the bolita machine. Y'all turned on no bolita machine. You know about the lottery. But before there was a lottery, there was a man on the east side named Joe Lewis. And he was the numbers runner. Let me tell you, he never had a piece of paper. He kept all the numbers in his head. And you would play your numbers with Joe Lewis on the east side, and then there was another partner on the west side, whose name I still can't call. I want you to know that my mama them played as a group, and she and her 6 sisters hit the number one day. Now the way they do this thing is they play the same number every day forever and ever. So everybody knows when the number hit, they got it because they play the same number. Well, everybody called, and there was only one telephone in the neighborhood in the middle of the block, so you had to call Miss Adley, and you had to ask her about the number. Now you can't just get on the phone and ask about the number because there's an operator that's listening, and you know they're nosy. Back in those days, we had a party line. You can't get the number on no party line. Well, we had to speak in code. So my mama would say, Pat, go down to the street there and go to Miss Adley's house and ask her how much was the peaches per pound this week. I would go down there, I said, Miss Adley, Mama said, how much the peaches run this week per pound? She said, tell your mama, them peaches was $2.49 a pound. So I would go back to my mama and say, Miss Adley say $2.49 a pound. My mama said, God almighty doggone it, I done hit the number. I said, Lord have mercy, I was a numbers runner and didn't even know it. Well, they decided with the number run, they hit the number, they were going to California. And the reason they were going to California is because my older sister was in the Navy and she was in San Francisco, and they'd been talking about going 3,000 miles all the way to California. Well, one of my aunties couldn't say California, so she would say California. And they decided to take me and my cousin Tootie with us. We would be like their, guides. Well, they decided they were going to fly. They wouldn't take no bus, it could take 3 days. So we went on an airplane, Delta Airline, we flying. First time flyers, what the lady asked us when we made the reservation. I said, yes ma'am, we're first time flyers, and it's gonna be 9 of us. Now, I got 9 aunties, and you can try to put them all in one little section or whatever. One of my aunties says, make sure, this is Aunt Liz, she's the oldest, she's real prissy, she's very religious, but honey, when she got to Vegas, I didn't recognize her. I said, Aunt Liz, we got you. She said, no, no, no. Make sure that they give me a seat that's not by the window, because I don't want my hair to blow. I said, Auntie, the Wright brothers flew long ago. They got seats now, they got everything fixed up. I just want to make sure. So I just got to tell you that Leah was the oldest, and she went to Beulah Baptist Church all her life, and she was the secretary over there. She told me, don't you tell Reverend Fields I hit the number. Now I'm going to leave some money for the church. But don't you tell them I hit the number, because I don't want to give them all my money. I got to go to Vegas. And then there was Aunt Leah, Aunt Lily Mae, Isabel, Annie Mae, and my favorite Aunt Blanche. Now I want you to also know there was Isabel, and Isabel was the one that was kind of hoity-toity. She was like real judgmental, But I have some stories about her. I saw her in Vegas too, so I just want her to know, anytime we want to do a bribe, I will remind her what happened in Vegas. Did not stay in Vegas. Well, I want you to know those 7 golden girls got on the airplane from Savannah, Atlanta, and then Atlanta, San Francisco. That's what the tickets say. Well, we get to Atlanta, we have an hour and 15 minutes before we connect, and 2 of them decided that they were going to the souvenir shop just to spend a little time in there. We got 15 minutes more now. You can't stay too long. We got to get down the other Broadway. Well, they get in there and they stay 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I don't see them. I go get them. My cousin's looking. They're lost in the Atlanta airport. So 2 of 7 of the Golden Girls are lost. They have the intercom just going, calling their name. Nobody sees them. Well, of course, we missed the flight. Now we had to be rerouted, and we had to go through Dallas. We get to Dallas, and they swear they're in California. I said, you're not in California yet. You're in Dallas, Texas. Oh my God, OMG. Well, we finally get to California, and it's 6 hours out of our time, so we get down to the baggage area. I want you all to get this vision. And as they're taking their bags off of the little ramp, there's water running all over the airport baggage ramp. I was so embarrassed, I said, Lord, I know that's that Savannah baggage. Auntie, what you got in there? Well, I wanted to take some dinner for my daughter. So my mama fixed a whole dinner and packed it. Now I'm talking about fresh blue crab from Savannah. She did not pack it in hot ice, she just put it in regular ice. And everything else, seafood from Williams Seafood, she put it on the ramp. So not only was it running, but the smell of seafood, welcome to San Francisco. Now they had a plan to go from San Francisco, Northern California, and then go to Southern California and going up to Vegas, and on the way they hit Reno and all of that. Well, the first place one of them wanted to go was Sausalito because they wanted to go to the farm area. We went to the farm area and she wanted to go further up into the vineyards, the wine area. Auntie, you're the secretary at Buell Baptist Church. You want to go get some wine up in the vineyards? I sure do. So we had to change our plans and go up there. And it just went on and on and on. Every place we went, each auntie had a heart piece. By the time we got to Vegas, my Aunt Leah, I'm talking about the oldest, the most religious, was the one that would not leave the slot machines. And my Aunt Blanche, I'm talking about the one who loved to fix sweet potato pie, and I have the recipe. Oh, she was not having the slot machines. She said, I'm gonna play blackjack at the table, baby. Because I used to live in New York and you'll never know the rest of that story. So I say that to say, on this vacation, I got a chance to know my Golden Girl aunties for who they really were. They all had soul crafts and heart pieces of things they always wanted to do, and we got a chance to take them 3,000 miles away so they could experience and people could experience them. Folks came from far and near in California to meet the Golden Girls. They couldn't believe it. They had recipes to share, they had stories, they had prayers, they had stones to give folks, they had dream interpretations. I mean, they were the stars in California. Now it's 2021. They've all gone home to glory now. But I can tell you, re-memory is amazing. I know that my first vacation ever at age 17 was with 7 Golden Girls who I know made it all the way up to glory based on their beliefs, you know. And I know that when they got to glory, they said, look here, God, I need to have a meeting with you. And so they're having this meeting, and they said, now I got a little gullah Geechee niece down here in Savannah and Ting. She likes to stir up good trouble all the time. So please watch over her, and don't let nobody have that sweet potato recipe that I do.
Crab.
Yes. Potato pie?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's all right. Thank you, my dear. Thank you.
Yep. That's it. All right. Well, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. I just want to say that all of these storytellers were just telling their stories for free tonight. They agreed to do this for charity. And I did not hear any of their stories beforehand, and I'm just absolutely speechless, but about all of them. So great job, and thanks to the audience here for coming out and donating to a great cause. And I'll just give a shout out to all the storytellers one more time: Ruby, Amy, Lillian. My old roommate, Julia, Jinhee, Chris Bernardo, and Sister Pat. All right. Thank you all. Have a great night. Woo! Oh, and Liv, of course. Last round of applause for Liv.